Hi everyone. Today I'm going to talk to you about winter camping. Now there are a lot of videos out there on how to prepare for it in things like here's the right sleeping bag to have a good sleep system with a pad, you want a four-season tent. I'm not going to talk about any of that kind of stuff. I'm going to talk about things you can do to prepare before you even leave your home, forms of conditioning, if you will. So you ready? Here we go. The first thing I would tell you to do is to set up your tent in your backyard. Now, if you don't happen to have a backyard, you can go to any place nearby, park, whatever. It might be a little weird if your town has a lot of homeless people, but I'm sure you can find a place to set it up. I also recommend that you set it up at dusk because that is pretty close to when worst case scenario that you'd be setting it up in winter. I also recommend that when you do this, you do it wearing the gloves that you're going to probably be wearing. So if you just go out there with bare hands, for example, it's a lot easier to set up the tent that way, although your hands will get cold. But more than likely when you're in the wild, you're going to be using a pair of gloves, and I suggest you put those on while you put the tent up. Alrighty, so here I am inside the tent after I have set it up. I think it's a good idea just to lay in here for a little while, at least a half an hour or longer if you can, just to get a feel of what it's going to be like being in here for quite some time. The next trick is an even easier one to do, and that is when you go to sleep at night, the day or two or three before you're going to take your camping trip, I recommend that you shut the heat in your house off at night, or really, really low if at all possible. If off, will be below freezing. You want to make sure that the room that you're sleeping in is going to be nice and cold. Now, if you think, geez, that's going to suck, well, it'll be easier doing that in the warmth of your own home, than it will be out in the cold when it's below zero and you're surrounded by nothing but snow. Now, if you think I get really cold doing this, well, what you can do is you can put an extra blanket on the bed, and that's totally fine. But this will get you used to sleeping somewhere where it's pretty cold. The next thing that I recommend that you do is go for a walk in your neighborhood underdressed. Wear something like just a fleece top, fleece bottoms, sweats of bottoms of some sort, thin cotton socks, nothing but a t-shirt underneath and no hat. And unzip your sweatshirt if you can, at the top if you can. I want you to get out there and feel the cold, feel the wind, be out there long enough to do it to where you're like, boy, this is pretty chilly, and unzip and unpeel as many layers as you can where you can tough it out. Now, I have a pretty good tolerance to the cold, so I'm probably not the best example, but I did this hike when it was, I think, about 38 degrees out and breezy. So I had nothing but a fleece layer on top and a t-shirt underneath. So this will get you used to what it's like when you're outside and you're walking along, or even if you stop and you're like trying to do some things, but boy, it's pretty cold out here. It's a good way of getting used to it and getting your body conditioned how cold it is. Now this one's going to be pretty obvious. Try to go on a hike or two before your trip and do it where it's somewhere where it's going to be pretty gosh darn cold, where you get out there and you're used to how many layers you got on, how much you might want to wear, what it's like when you overheat or underdressed or any of those things happen. If you can take one or two hikes beforehand, that's a good way to getting used to the elements. Another thing that you can do that I've personally have found to be pretty successful in order to train for cold weather, and that is to ride a bicycle outside in the cold. This really gets you used to like wind chill factor, and when you turn and look into the wind and just how biting cold it can be on your face. This definitely kind of thickens the skin some and can prepare you some for when you go out there and you're planning your trip. Now this one's going to seem a little bit peculiar, so bear with me. I recommend in the days leading up to your trip, you wash your hands always in cold water. Not cool water, cold. Turn the spigot, faucet to nothing but cold and wash your hands in it. Yes, you're going to be like, wow, this is really darn chilly, and it's going to be hard, and it's even going to hurt a little bit. The worst thing that's going to happen is your hands are going to get cold, and a matter of minutes after you towel them off, they're going to start to warm up again. Much nicer to be able to do this again in the comfort of your own home than when your hands are freezing out there. I want you to get used to this, the fact because your hands are going to get cold at various times when you're out there doing winter camping. If you want a real challenge, what you can do is try taking a shower and turn the warm water down. I don't know about off. That might be quite a bit. That would be more of a challenge than I think most of us would really want. But I think to turn the faucet down on the hot some while you're in there taking a shower is a pretty good way to get your body a little bit used to blasts of cold. Now, if you want a real unpredictable challenge, what you can do is you can try doing a load of laundry on warm or hot water while you're in the shower. Hit the start button on the washing machine. Set your temperature of the shower where when there's no water going into the washing machine, it's nice and warm, because that will definitely give you a jolt of cold automatically without you touching anything. I have done this before, but never on purpose. So if you try it, let me know what you think. Now, one other thing that I like to mention to people, especially if you're going in snow or deep snow and it's very wintry conditions, especially if you're snowshoeing, I like to tell people that it's so wonderful just to get out there and be in the wild during the absolute dead of winter. And if you're on snowshoes, you really only got to get like a mile or two from wherever trailhead you are to feel like you're really out in the wilderness, to where you really don't hear anything anymore. And the other good news about this is if you find yourself only a mile or so out there and you're like, boy, it's really cold, really dark, this is not for me. In a real pinch or an emergency, you've only got to get like a mile to the car to get home and then come back and try on another day. After all, wilderness isn't going anywhere. So there are my tips on helping prepare and or condition for going out camping, backpacking, snowshoeing, and so on overnight in winter. If you like this, please give it a thumbs up or subscribe, and I hope to see you next time.